morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest podcast, the podcast that is, well, today is the season finale. What does that mean for you? Nothing, really. I'm Kevin Palmer, and joining with me today is my co-host, Wes Shirley, and I forbidden Wes from saying her name, but we have Laura Skebba back with us as well for today's season finale.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, Lauren Skebba.
Oh,
Hi.
man. We're off to a really great start. I can't even, mispronounce Wes's name, though. Like, how do you mispronounce Wes Shirley?
You have a dog.
I do have a dog. This is Ruby. She's gone
Hi,
now.
Ruby.
For those in the audience who can't see, which is all of you, we have our webcams on, so we are seeing Laura's dog, Ruby.
It pertains to them. They're listening to us. We're talking for them. There's a dog now via proxy for them.
Okay, +1 on the proxy dog. Wes, how's your week been?
It's been a week. Like there's been a string of days that are demarcated by a start and a finish thus far. Yeah.
Laura, how about you?
Oh, it's been a week. It's been a short week, actually. I didn't work Monday, so it's like I'm behind a day. I'm off a bit,
Yeah, you had mentioned things are a little crazy right now in the pre-show at work.
Yeah, it's the October is the end of the fiscal year at work, so pretty much everything is just on fire all of the time, and stuff's getting reported to the VP if it's not done, and I'm just like, can we just kind of just chill? It's fine, guys. Work will get done. It's all right. The building won't burn down if we don't get one thing done. It's fine.
So what's new since you were last done? I know that one thing is that you did get a yard for your dog.
I did. We get the keys on November 8th. So I don't know when you guys will be hearing this, but that is a week from Monday. So we're going to move probably the following weekend. And so one of the cool things about being a photographer is that I know a ton of photographers, and I just hire them for whatever I want. So I hired one of my photographer friends to come over the day we move, and we're going to do a champagne pop in the front yard.
That is perfect. That is nothing short of perfect.
Because I'm super extra.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, though. It's a really big life achievement, something to be proud of. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just really busy with photography. Everybody wants fall photos, weddings, and everything. So
can you Photoshop some pumpkin spice in the background? Just some guy in the background going like this. Yeah, nobody saw that, but that's okay.
No, I do get asked to Photoshop quite often, and I have to remind people.
You should charge extra for that. I imagine that's a lot of work.
Well, it's not even that it's that hard. It's when people ask for things to be Photoshopped, they ask for things that it can't happen.
Can you give me an example?
Can you Photoshop? This really wasn't that hard, but I had the mother of the groom ask if I could Photoshop out her bra straps. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just wear a bra that worked with your dress? It's actually really hard because the bra straps are so close to the strap of the dress.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be really, really careful to not get the wrong one.
Right.
But it's that's not that hard, but I'll get, can you, Photoshop somebody out or Photoshop this in, or can you make it look like this or look like that? And I'm like,
you just put a fucking dragon in the background.
well, people have this misconception that Photoshop is magic. You can just do whatever. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Imagination.
Sorry, guys. I'm a little bitter today, I guess. I'm a little, what do the kids call it? A no bones day? Is that what they're calling it now?
I've never heard of that.
I don't know, actually. I don't even know if I'm using that right.
I think you're more hip than both of us.
Well,
yeah, I have never heard of that.
That's the new thing, and I've been seeing people use it, and I just literally don't know what it means, but I have to imagine.
Hold on, we're going to Google this.
Oh, there we go.
Because I now need to know what that means. No bones day. Meaning.
Does it mean you just feel like Jello?
Is today a bones or a no bones day? Question mark. The trend, which has become a viral phenomenon on social media, works as the daily version of Groundhog Day, where people can see what their day will be like based on whether it's not a bones day or a bones day. That's
a very convoluted answer.
That doesn't fill me in any. Like, are we reading the bones? Oh, it's the dog. I've seen this actually. There is a dog on TikTok. It's like a, I don't know, French bulldog or something. And they set it up in its bed and it either falls down because it has no bones, which means like F it, right? Like, and then having bones, he stands up and like tries to give the owner a kiss, and it's either a bones or no bones day.
That is kind of adorable.
Wow. Do they do this every day?
I think that's their TikTok, is a bones or no bones day with this dog.
My God. Is that how you get TikTok famous? Is that all I have to do?
Seems like it.
So my question is, if they show up every day, what happens if you don't, like, what if that doesn't show up in your feed? What if you don't see that video for that day?
6 more weeks of winter.
You know what? Let's just leave it at that. I love it. Makes total sense, and I love it. Are you having a no bones day, Laura? Is that right?
I think so.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's like, do you ever like have, I don't know, like you're so like stressed or like just anxiety ridden that you just kind of like forget what happened that day, but like you just know it wasn't good? Does that happen to anybody?
I think so, because I think that's how people get to like the point where they get home and they're like, I don't want to talk about it. Like their brain is like blocked it out. They know like the day that they had like was bad. They don't need to remember the details of it.
Yeah, all I can remember about my day is like this internal monologue of screaming.
Can we get an audio clip for the episode of the internal screaming?
like that.
Perfect. Thank you. So Laura, when we're having a no bones day, is that equivocating to like an existential crisis of some sort?
I mean, probably, if that's what the kids are using it for.
I think kids just like using really big words, honestly.
No bones. Huge.
I meant existential.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely makes me question why I do a lot of things. Like, why did I even go and get this degree in chemistry when I should have gotten one in business or something to actually do what I like doing? But then, you know, when I'm doing photography, I feel like I have more existential crises than I do. And I claim to love this thing, so you tell me what's going on.
I was going to say that's interesting because that's like a huge passion point of yours.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it, I feel like it happens more with creatives, and maybe that's just my own bubble, but like, there's so much pressure to create, for one, and there's so many other insanely talented people doing the same thing, going after your same market. I don't know. It just, you question yourself a lot. You question, is my work good enough? Is anybody actually gonna invest in me versus someone else? Like, how do I stand out from these other people? Like, what am I gonna do to make sure people see me versus the other people? Or I don't know. I feel like probably at least twice a day I go from, wow, I love photography, I want to do this full time, I'm so good at this, to, holy shit, I suck at this, why am I even trying, I quit. Like, all the way back and forth, probably at least twice a day.
And what carries you through that like high and low? Is that like just as you're working through it, you see a good shot and a bad shot? It's
mostly, I think a lot of it is, it's also tied to like imposter syndrome stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure people know what that is, but you know, I'll like be working on a session, and then I'll like get on Instagram and I'll see somebody else whose work is just like light years better than mine, and I'm like, well, fuck, why did I even try? Like,
yeah, I think it's definitely easy to be your own worst critic. And I think Wes and I feel that pressure too to create as creatives, even though it's like even with it being a completely different type of work from photography, but it still involves having a social media presence, and that's hard. And like, yes, I want to address the elephant in the room, like, to our listeners, like, yes, we know our social media presence sucks. something that we're working on for season 2. But
I mean, it's hard when like so much of being a photographer is like you have to be on social media a lot. And I think that kind of feeds the imposter syndrome because we constantly just see it all the time. And you know, a lot of the photographers I follow are like good friends and like we inspire each other and it's great, but you know, there's always that little piece of my brain that's just like, well, why aren't I as good as this person? And it can be hard sometimes to get through that, but I have to just kind of...
It is tough, though, because you get sucked into this world of things that aren't always pleasant and healthy. And I like how you touched on imposter syndrome, because you kind of have to touch on this, like, you have to portray yourself as a business, because at the end of the day, that's what you are, is you're a business. You're on a venture, you're running a business. I can definitely empathize with what you're saying. Wes, any thoughts, any experiences to share on that?
I think what you've said is pretty close to how I feel as well, as far as, like, the imposter syndrome of just how like there's so many better people out there than you are at this very current point in time. So I'm a bit of a creative, I guess. I don't have a job that would make me a creative, but like I try to make beats or music, and I dabble in like Adobe Suite, so like Photoshop and Premiere and stuff like that. And even though I have no defined like parameters of what I'm trying to make, I still do feel this like really, it's like a compulsion to make something. Like I have to do this. I feel lousy if I don't. I feel like I'm a failure. And I quite literally have an existential crisis. I like that would be a good way to consider it. Like I'm not where I want to be in life at the moment. I have all these outlets where I can, you know, turn them into a revenue stream or be an entrepreneur with them. But you really got to work hard for that. Like if you want free time and you're working a full-time job, you probably don't have time to do those things. And that's how it affects me, is like I have infinite things I want to do, feel like I have to do, feel bad if I don't do. And I just don't have the time for it. And then when I see other people producing things of the quality I wish I was producing, it gets really discouraging. And I do feel like in every aspect, even in my job that is, you know, essentially a customer service role, I feel like there's just people who are much more knowledgeable in the subject, much more prepared to succeed. And even though like I try to remain optimistic, and it helps when other people can see that you're going through these crises and they inform you, hey, you're not so bad off or whatever. But like, it's just really hard to not, you know, get in your head when you're, you know, you have stuff to do, you have stuff you want to do.
Do you, so touching on something you said, do you feel, because this happens to me, do you feel pressured to create content versus just create?
My pressure comes from a skill level or a skill set. So like if I'm bad at something, I'm not great at mixing music. You can ask Kevin. I've shown him music and he's like, bro, you need some reference speakers. Like, no, not in a bad way. Like
I was going to say, I'm not a dick. You actually asked for feedback.
Right, like
professional
I asked
feedback.
Kevin for a critique based on his experience, and I know that he's good for a critique and I trust his word. But he's like, bro, get some reference speakers. And like, so I'm constantly trying to be better in every aspect. Like if I was to be the one producing this podcast and dropping it as its final release, I have like, I would die of the existentialism in between. Like, oh shit, I have to do this. It has to be perfect. I at least have to do what Kevin's doing, but let's go better. You know, why not? And then it all cycles into me actually not wanting to do anything because I'm overwhelmed.
Heard.
and I think it comes from the skill gap in between me and others. Like I make trap beats. I like rapping. In a perfect world, I would become a rapper. But in this current world, that's not where I am right now. So I see the skill gap and how much time investment that would be needed to bridge that gap. And I get anxious about it. So then when I'm watching TV trying to unwind, I hop up from my chair, go launch an Audition or Fruity Loops or even Audacity in certain situations. And I make unique sounds, plot them together, and then I'll spend hours doing that to no avail because I don't actually have a set goal in mind other than getting better. And then I've wasted precious time to unwind, and it affects me the next day even. Like I don't know what the driving factors are aside from it might be imposter syndrome. Realistically, compared to 100,000 people, I'm probably in the top 1% of someone who can do a certain skill, but I see 10 million people and now I'm in this lower portion and I'm like, oh geez, I'm trash, I'm terrible.
I want to touch on something that you said that made me think of something. You were talking about like not necessarily working towards something specific, like you still had a goal, but there wasn't like a specific end game goal in mind other than to just improve as to what you were doing. And I immediately thought of, don't laugh, but I immediately thought of playing Overwatch and how I don't typically play shooter games, but I just wanted to become like the best I could be at that, and I just wanted to work towards improving and being as good as I physically could be every day. And I would sit there for several hours, and obviously over only several hours, you're not going to feel like you've improved or had that skill at all because it's accumulative. But at the end of the day, the end of that 3-4 hour session, I get up from it and I'm like, man, I feel like I wasted all this time because I'm not any better than what I was when I first sat down. Is that kind of what you were like? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I think so, yeah, because you don't see the progress immediately. It's accumulative. So like over the course of a year, you might notice the progress, but in that moment, I've just wasted 4 hours of my evening, and I have this whole other list of things I need to get done. And even if I don't need to get them done urgently, I feel like everything's urgent. So it's always a trade-off in time. And regardless of how caught up in the moment I am, how much fun I'm actually having, it's not good enough. I don't see the progress. I'm not making money off of it. And when there's like a skill gap as well as like a desire to turn something into a career, it just comes like, it's, I don't have words. It's compounding on how traumatic it can be to the psyche in the moment.
But okay, you said that you wasted 4 hours. Did you though? Like you may not have like produced something in those 4 hours that's like even anything you like, but you did produce things in those 4 hours that you didn't like. And that's still good. Like that's fine. I've done that with photos. Like I will sit there editing this photo for forever. And I'm finally just like, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to throw it out. I just don't like it. And you know what? That's fine. I know now what doesn't work. And like, that's fine. If you're, and what you said before about not really having a goal, I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think if your only goal is to gain experience, get better, I think that's a fantastic goal. I think that's a success in itself. It doesn't help. Your time spent like on your passion or on your whatever you're working on doesn't always have to be like life-changing or like, revolutionary. It can just be like 4 solid hours of grinding. And that, I think that's fine.
I completely agree with that, Laura. I think there's so much pressure. We get caught up in this thing of like, it has to be either all or nothing. Like it has to be great. It can't be bad. Rome wasn't built in a day, but my project or my venture or my goal is different. And we treat it as such. And if it doesn't end up that way, we're even more, harsher of a critic on ourselves. I don't know if that's just born from like the pressure, like of like that maybe our parents put on us, like as children. There was an interesting article I read not too long ago about birth order, and I know Wes, you're the youngest. Laura, are you the youngest too?
I'm the baby.
Okay, you're the baby. Okay, so I'm the oldest, so I guess this doesn't really apply to me, or at least it's not supposed to. But the youngest tend to have this like pressure because you're the third, fourth, fifth kid to like tie their shoe, and so the parents have seen it all before and they're like, yeah, that's nice, Laura, run along now. And I think about that and I'm like, I feel that pressure too though. So I'm not here to like completely like phallicize birth order and its theory, but
well, there's exceptions to everything.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to get some feelers out there though. Reach out to us at support at the Life Midwest. Where are you in that birth order, and do you feel pressure? Maybe not necessarily it came from your parents, but do you feel that pressure like when you're creating that it has to be like the greatest thing it could ever be? Or are you able to like take a step back and look at that big picture and go, you know what? Is that okay? Are we okay with that? So Wes, because it's the season finale, I have a big ask, but are you willing to rap for us today since you talked about it?
Oh no, you're gonna have to edit them. I'm gonna say some shit that's gonna get us in trouble. I freestyle, like I don't write anything down, so it's straight from the dome, straight to the microphone, and into our listeners' ears. I'm gonna need you to gatekeep some dumb shit I say. I will though. I can't promise it'll be good. When I'm under pressure, I do even worse. So
You can rap about Ruby.
all right, I guess I could. She a cute pupper.
I can give you some context during the break if you want.
Sure.
So coming up, Wes is going to rap.
Don't say
I
it like
think
that.
the way you said rap is appropriate here. Yeah.
You
Wes
gotta
is going to
encourage your
expel
boy
words from his
here.
lips.
You're right. Coming up, fat beats from Wesley Snipes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Life Midwest podcast. On the other side of the break, your host Kevin Palmer alongside Wes Shirley and special guest co-host Laura Skebba. Hope you're enjoying the season finale today, wherever you are listening from on this fine Saturday. If you're looking for ways to support us, we do have a PayPal that's set up because it does cost money to run the show. PayPal.me/TheLifeMidwest. You can also reach out to us at any of our socials on all major social platforms at The Life Midwest, or you can also email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. You can also leave us a review on iTunes, give us one of those 5-star ratings, leave us a written review if you have time to type something out. We really appreciate that. We appreciate any sort of support that you're able to give us. We're gonna need it over the next 2 months while we're on break here. And speaking of which, want to address that elephant in the room? Yeah, we are going to be taking a 2-month break before we return for our second season in January. Isn't that right, Wes?
That is correct. We are taking, what is it, a 2-month break? Is that what November and December equal?
Taking 2 months off.
Yep. And we're doing a little bit of restructuring as it is. We are, I think the format is probably as close today as it will be to the new one than it's ever been. We've had our cycles coming through. It was The Life Midwest. Here's a social science podcast that lasts an hour about some shit. Then it turned into the podcast about nothing. Then it turned into Kevin's solo gig. And then it's back to kind of what it is now, but I think we're going further, right? We're crisping it up and being a little bit more focused in our approach. Gonna really have something cool for everyone.
Yeah, we want to do something more directly related to current events. Not necessarily don't think it's going to be anything like the news or something like that. Think about like how today's been kind of like a topic or a talking point of like something that's like people might be facing, or like a crisis like with a current event topic. The cryptocurrency episode was actually a really good example of that, where you have a current event that's kind of being kind of in the spotlight, or is something that's currently happening, and kind of having an open discussion with a side of humor on it. We want to do that, but we want it to be more polished and refined. So we're obviously going to keep the humor. I would say think about those think about the shows that talk about the news, but there's a lot of humor injected in it. But there's usually only one person, so we're going to take a little bit of a unique spin by having two
tonight on the dialogue, instead of the monologue.
Exactly. So we hope everyone's looking forward to it. We're going to be spending the next couple of months updating the websites and the social medias and all those fun things. We keep saying the word restructure, but I don't really know what else to call it. But we're going to take this time off to refresh, recollect, and get ready for that. And hopefully that will allow us to come back more polished and more refined. And we just want to be able to produce that for you, the listener.
We're still bringing our friends along with us, right? Every once in a while.
Absolutely. I do want to have Lenny and Laura and others back on the show in the future. As far as like the My Friend series, I'm open to continuing to do that as long as that is what the listeners want. So make sure you give us some feedback. And that's going to be the big thing. That's what we really want over the next 2 months is feedback. So if you want to reach out to us through our email at support@thelifemidwest or comment or DM us at any of our major socials at The Life Midwest, we want to know what it is you want to see in season 2. I really mean that. I really do want to hear from every single listener as far as what you want, what you're looking for. And I'll probably give you until about Thanksgiving, but if I have your phone number after that, I'll be like, hey, fucker, you haven't texted me, you haven't given me any feedback yet. And I know you heard the episode. But yeah. Wes, any final thoughts on that?
I'm excited about it. I can't imagine it's going to be too much different from what we're doing now as far as what we're doing, but I think the listener is going to notice the difference for sure. So, we're still putting a podcast together. We're still putting in some work. So I don't think much of that aspect will change. But ideally, when we're all said and done, when we're coming back for that second season, everyone will notice a difference.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to go through, because I want to recognize those who listen to the show and give us that support and shout out to all of our listeners. So I just want to go through the geographic locations real quick of those who regularly tune into us here and give you guys a shout out. So first off, we obviously have the United States. We have Ohio with about half of our listening base. We also have Washington, Virginia, Michigan, Kentucky, Texas, Massachusetts, Florida, Oregon, California, Mississippi, Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, Arizona, Nevada, Minnesota, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, DC, Oklahoma, Kansas, Vermont, Pennsylvania, and Iowa. We also, outside of that, have Thailand, United Kingdom, Ireland, Brazil, India, Australia, France, Colombia, Canada, South Africa, Singapore, Austria, and Mexico. We really appreciate that we have that much outreach, and we really are looking forward to coming back in season 2 with something that's more consistent. Because we've had those different paths and different directions that we've taken over season 1, and we hope you've enjoyed all of it. But we hope that you enjoy what we're going to be more so laser focused on when we come back for season 2.
If anyone knows anyone in like Alaska or Hawaii who's not listening to our podcast and they should be, let them know. I mean, those are the only 2 that stuck out that I didn't notice on the list.
And that's, of course, another thing that you guys can do for us, folks, is tell your friends about us. If you like what you're hearing, or if you want other people to like what they're hearing, then that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. We want to get out there, have them dial into some of the more recent episodes and tell them, hey, this is what you can kind of expect for season 2 and what they want to do. And then once they listen to that, they'll be able to get feedback as far as what they want to hear. So that's going to give us even more feedback for the people that are, listening to these last few episodes, and maybe they have some things that they want to listen to as new listeners coming back to season 2. They'll be able to hear the fruits of their feedback, so to speak. So looking forward to that. We got Laura Skebba over here, still trying to not have a no bones day.
Okay, I mean, if you guys thought that was good, I feel like I sit here and I always feel guilty for like talking about my problems, but like, I don't know.
Isn't that what we do here at The Life Midwest?
I think that's one of the things that we aim for on the show, is because we talk about like, oh, we have this going on, and we want people to be able to hear that and go, oh, it's not just me. And they feel better about it. And then when you're able to put something on top of that, like icing on the cake, which you totally did, by the way, your word of advice, you get the complete package out of an episode.
Cool.
So this is an episode I'm going to be, I think we should all be really proud of. I don't think you were complaining at all.
I'm like, I mean, full transparency. I saw my therapist yesterday, and like,
yeah,
I don't know. I only see her like once a month now, which is awesome. Like, I don't need to go as much, but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm still I'm just like off today. So the encouragement is good. I don't know what's going on today.
I started with a new one this week. So I know you're not like going through like a transition with yours or anything like that, but sometimes you have those sessions where you're unpacking a lot though.
I feel like do you ever just feel like you go to your therapist and you just like rant for like an hour?
Absolutely. And then they just tell you at the end it's going to be fine. That'll be $20.
$20? Where do you go? That's $20.
Or whatever your copay is.
I don't have a copay. They don't take my insurance.
Oof. Well, this is awkward. But if you like your therapist, then it's worth it.
I don't like her that much. But like, I feel like you're not supposed to. You know, like if I was like, I love my therapist, we get along great. Like that's bad. I don't want my therapist to like affirm everything I say because I know not everything I say is like rational.
I see what you're saying though. You don't want your therapist to enable you.
Exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't want to get too comfortable.
Right. I think it's really cool that you do a ton of drugs. You should follow your dreams.
Can we leave this all in? Is that cool with everybody?
I don't care at all. I'm very open about my therapy and my anxiety and all of that.
I think people should be open about therapy.
I agree.
I think that would help more people get to therapy.
That brings up something I was gonna talk about. I guess kind of. One of the thoughts that I had this week when thinking about this episode is that I really feel like the biggest risk a person can take is like fully investing in themselves, because that means that you have total control over everything that happens. And that is terrifying. You're accountable and nobody else can be.
Profound.
I think that's something that I've been thinking about a lot this week. And I think like that's why I have been a little bit like hesitant up until the last few months, is that I didn't really have the confidence in myself to actually do that, because it's scary as hell. I mean, think about it. Like if you're in a relationship with someone, like there's at least another person in it that can influence the situation. But if you're starting a business or you're, making beats, it's you. It's all you. You're the only one there making stuff happen.
And nothing is more scary. Exactly.
Especially when you can't blame anybody for anything other than yourself. I think that scared the shit out of me for a while. It still scares me a little bit, but I think I've, in the past few months, this year has been great for me, for my business, honestly, but I think that's still kind of there a little bit. I'm not sure that it'll ever go away, but
I know people tend to be really good at giving advice that maybe is harder for them to heed themselves. And I say that not because like that's specifically like what you are going through or what you deal with, Laura, but is there something that you would say to those people like struggling with that thought process?
I think it kind of goes back to what I was telling Wes. Like you have to just like, once you do something scary once or twice, it stops being scary. You just kind of have to like accept the fact that the thing I'm doing right now is going to be scary for a minute. But if I just keep doing it, it'll eventually stop being scary. And that will open up like a whole new, like creative realm that you didn't even know was there. Like once you get past fear, so much happens, is what I've learned. And I know that's really, really hard. You just kind of have to be like okay with being afraid for a little bit. Does that make sense?
Completely. And so what you're saying is just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Wes, any final thoughts before we go to the shout outs?
That was really good advice. That's a treat for our listeners and me as a host.
Well, good. I'm glad. Great. I don't know. I think it's just, you also just kind of got to lean on your people, and like if your boy's encouraging you to rap, he's obviously going to be here to support you when you do it. He asked you to do it. So is the moral of the story I should rap? I mean,
all right, fuck it. I don't have a job anymore. I'm quitting my job. I'm going to rap. Mom, I'm a rapper now.
I mean, if that's what you want to interpret that, you go right ahead and live your life.
Nah, I like eating food and like having shelter. I'll wait till I'm a professional before I...
Laura, it's been really great having you back on the show and having you hang out with us for this topic this week. I really appreciate you making it back on to chat with us. Is there anyone in the world that you'd like to shout out?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me back. I can't believe you asked me to come back on here after the first time. I'm going to shout out my friend, Megan. She is not only a great friend, but also another photographer. And her and I are very different people. And I think she's just been a really big influence in the way I view things and the way that I have been, accepting things and thinking about things differently. And I think she's been a big help in my my mindset. So shout out to my friend Megan. And also, I was in Wisconsin this past weekend. So I have to shout out the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur and Curly Lambeau. Just seems fitting.
I'm a fan of Aaron Rodgers, so I'm okay with that shout out on the show.
Yay, sports.
Sports ball.
It's hilarious. So the Packers played tonight and they're about to get their asses kicked, and I just am not ready for it. So
I think it's going to be a really good game, actually.
Don't.
Full transparency, we are recording on the Thursday beforehand, so 2 days before this episode airs. But I think it's still going to be a good close game.
Devontae has COVID.
Oh, really?
So he's not playing. Yeah. And I think DeAndre Hopkins is out, and JJ Watt is out.
Oh.
And my entire freaking secondary is probably still out. So,
yikes.
Again.
But you have Aaron Rodgers and his discount double check.
I think he's just going to throw the ball and then run down to the end zone and catch it himself at this point, because everyone's injured or has the COVID.
I'm going to wish your boys the best of luck tonight, just because I don't care about specifically because I don't care about the Cardinals. Wes, anybody you want to shout out this week?
Let me give a fat shout out to Ruby the Pitbull. Thanks for being visible throughout this entire podcast. Dogs are great. I'd like to give a shout out to Mac for making a brief appearance in tonight's show. Good pupper, great pupper. I'd like to give a shout out to Laura without an N for coming on to the show and putting up with me calling you the wrong name right from the get-go. And
it's nothing new.
And I'd like to give a shout out to mothers as well, because we're going to be taking a brief 2-month break, and we would hate for the mothers not to recognize that we think they deserve a shout out, because they do objectively. And I'd like to give a shout out to people who aren't afraid to just do what they love doing. If you're okay with making an ass of yourself to an end that is successful, that is cool as hell. And shout out for you for doing that. One day I will be brave enough to do the same.
I believe in you.
I believe in you too. Real quickly, I want to shout out my mom. She's had a hell of a year with some health issues. I want to shout out Laura Skebba for being on. Jimmy Fugate, Leonard Wells, Mercedes McDonald, Peapod, Ace. All of our friends that we've had on the show this past first season have helped make it a really great and unique first season. Looking forward to having you guys come back in any capacity if you'd want to. Come and chat with us a little bit more. That'd be great. Don't forget to call your mom.
Call your mom.
Please don't forget to call your mom.
Do it.
We will see you guys in the new year in 2022. Have a great Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. And we'll see you guys in January. Take care. Have a good one. Have a good one.